Welcome to Life Stories. What would you do if the people who raised you, your own family, used your name to commit a crime? Not strangers, not enemies, but the ones who once kissed your scraped knees and promised they'd never hurt you. This is the story of a brilliant young attorney who thought she had it all under control until a single phone call shattered everything she believed about love, loyalty, and what it means to be family. It's a journey through betrayal so personal, it doesn't just threaten her career. It forces her to question whether blood is truly thicker than truth. Stay with us, because what happens next will not only surprise you, it might change the way you see the people closest to you. Let's begin. Brooke Lawson didn't believe in omens until that Tuesday afternoon when the sun refused to shine through her office window. It was supposed to be a routine day at Grant and Monroe LLP, the kind of uneventful Tuesday where paperwork stacked higher than coffee cups, and the most thrilling moment was arguing a clause in a contract. Brooke, a 34-year-old corporate attorney known for her precision and poise, had just wrapped up a final meeting when her phone buzzed on the desk. The screen flashed an unknown number, but the area code was local, Los Angeles. She hesitated. There was something heavy in the air, a static tension that made her fingertips tingle. She picked up anyway. "Hello, this is Brooke Lawson," a man's voice too chipper for that time of day. "Hi, Miss Lawson. This is Darren Green from Horizon Pacific Bank. I'm calling to verify a few details regarding a mortgage loan at 427 Glen Haven Street." Brooke frowned. "I'm sorry, what address?" 1427 Glen Haven Street, he repeated, now slower. "It's for a mortgage taken out about 7 months ago. You're listed as the co-signer." She laughed, but it came out brittle. "You've got the wrong person. I've never co-signed a loan in my life." A pause. Then his voice shifted, still polite, but cautious, like someone about to break very bad news. "The primary applicant is Haley Lawson, your sister." Brooke's breath left her body in a single, sharp exhale. Her fingers lost grip of the pen in her hand. It clattered to the floor. There had to be some mistake. Haley was her younger sister. Reckless, yes, but not malicious. Not someone who would sign her name on a loan. Not without asking. Not behind her back. "I haven't signed anything," Brooke said, quieter now, the words harder to form. "I understand your confusion," Darren replied, clearly expecting resistance. "But all the documents list your name. Your parents actually delivered the signed paperwork to the branch. Everything appears official." Brooke's world slowed. Suddenly, her memories felt tainted, like shadows cast by a fire she hadn't realized was already burning. Her mother brushing off questions during Christmas about Haley's new house. The awkward silence at her father's birthday party when they handed her insurance forms just for renewal. Had she really signed something that night? Was that even possible? "Can you send me the documents?" Her voice had a cold edge now, the edge she used in depositions. "I'll email them right away," Darren said. "But there's another issue. Payments are 2 months overdue. The outstanding balance is—" She didn't hear the rest. Her mind was already racing somewhere darker. She hung up and called Marcus Delgado, her best friend since law school and a civil litigation specialist with a gift for smelling legal rot before it showed on paper. "They forged my signature," she said the moment he picked up. "Haley, my parents, all of them." He didn't hesitate. "I'll be there in 15. By the time Marcus arrived at her apartment, she had the documents open on her laptop. The signature at the bottom of the mortgage file wasn't just close. It was hers, down to the little loop in the B that her mother had always insisted looked too pretty for a lawyer. "They didn't even try to disguise it," Marcus muttered, pointing at the PDF. "This isn't sloppy. This is confident. Like they knew you wouldn't catch them." "I didn't. Not until now." The apartment felt colder than it had an hour ago, even with the heater on. Her cat, Tilly, curled at her feet, seemed to sense the tension too, eyes wide, tail twitching. And then, as if fate had a sense of drama, her phone rang again. This time it was her mother. Brooke hesitated, then answered. "Sweetheart," her mother's voice chirped, all warmth and domestic calm. "Are you free tonight? Your dad's making spaghetti and meatballs." Brooke almost laughed. The absurdity of it was cinematic. I got a very interesting call from Horizon Pacific today, she said instead. Silence. Mom? Then a small, guilty breath. I was going to tell you. Really? When? Before or after I lost my law license? Don't be dramatic, Brooke. We're family. We help each other. No, you helped Haley. You used me. She needed a head start. You already have a career, a home, savings. We thought. You thought wrong. Her voice shook. Her fingers did too. But not with fear, with fury. I'm coming over. Haley better be there. She ended the call without another word. Marcus looked up from her dining table. You okay? Brooke didn't answer. She was already pulling on her coat. Her parents' house in Orange County looked exactly the same as it always had. White shutters, brick steps, that faint smell of lavender her mother sprayed before guests arrived. But Brooke wasn't a guest. She was the reckoning. Inside, Haley sat at the kitchen table, face blotchy, mascara smudged like a guilty teenager caught sneaking out. Her mother stood near the hallway, arms crossed but uncertain. Her father didn't look at her at all. Brooke pulled a folder from her bag and dropped it on the table. The sound cracked through the silence. Every credit account, loan, and forged document in my name, she said. Haley began crying immediately. It got out of control, she sobbed. It was just for the down payment, then the cards. And I didn't mean for it to max out 3 credit cards, take out a $50,000 personal loan, use my investment account as collateral. Haley was shaking. You make how much a month, Haley? Silence. Brooke turned to her parents. And you? You helped her do this. You delivered the forms. Her father finally looked at her. We were just trying to give your sister a chance. A chance? She snapped. By destroying my life? My credit's wrecked. My reputation is compromised. If the firm finds out, I could be disbarred. Her mother stepped forward. We thought you'd forgive us, that you'd understand. No, Brooke said, her voice like steel. What you did wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. And now I have to decide what kind of daughter I'm going to be. She picked up the folder again, but this time with shaking hands. Tomorrow I'm filing a report. Identity theft, fraud, everything. Her mother gasped. You'd send your own family to jail? You already sentenced me the day you signed my name. The words left her lips like a gavel striking wood. And in that moment, Brooke knew this wasn't just about justice. It was about choosing herself. After a lifetime of trying to be the perfect daughter, she was done. Done being the backup plan. Done being the bank. Done being the silence that made betrayal feel acceptable. What would you do if the people you trusted most used your life to escape their own failures? Can love still exist when trust has been shattered beyond repair? Because as Brooke closed the door behind her, one thought echoed louder than the rest. They didn't just forge her name, they rewrote the meaning of family. The next morning, Brooke stood in the mirror longer than usual. Her reflection stared back, still in the pressed black slacks and soft gray blouse she always wore on high-stakes days in court. But something behind her eyes had shifted, an edge that hadn't been there before. Not cold, not angry, just clear. She wasn't just filing a fraud report. She was confronting the gravity of what that meant. If she went through with this, she wouldn't just be burning bridges. She'd be detonating the foundation of her entire life. As she zipped up her laptop bag, a memory surfaced. Haley at age 11, running through sprinklers in the backyard, shrieking with laughter, her hair sticking to her face like wildflowers in the rain. Their mother watching from the porch, holding iced tea and humming a Sinatra song. That day had felt like love. That version of them had felt real. But memories could lie. Or worse, they could fade into myths we clung to long after they'd stopped being true. By noon, she was in her firm's private conference room with Marcus and Valerie Monroe, a forensic financial analyst with a gaze that seemed to cut through lies like glass. Valerie had a laptop open, her fingers flying across the keyboard. I found 3 more accounts, she said calmly. All opened within the last year, all under your name. Brooke didn't flinch. She couldn't afford to. Locations? One in Nevada, one in Austin, one from an IP address here in LA. Valerie turned the screen. That one was access from your parents' home network. Same night, Haley stayed late at your apartment. Marcus leaned forward. We're dealing with premeditated identity fraud, multiple counts. But here's what makes this bigger. They didn't just use your name, they used your career. He clicked a folder labeled Redwood Capital Growth Fund. Brooke's stomach dropped. Her LinkedIn photo, at polished and professional, stared back at her. Underneath it, Fund Manager, Redwood Capital, overseeing multi-million-dollar portfolio operations for private investors nationwide. I never even heard of this, she said quietly. Valerie nodded. They built a fund, or rather the illusion of one. They used your credentials, your law license, your investment history, even a fabricated Gmail account that looks eerily close to yours. Brooke stared at the screen as emails scrolled by. Investment pitches, updates, digital brochures featuring her signature and personal quotes. This isn't just identity theft, she whispered. This is full-blown wire fraud. And it gets worse, Marcus said. Several of the victims are high-net-worth individuals, your mom's college friends, golf club associates. If they come forward, this turns federal fast. Brooke leaned back in her chair, heart thudding. She wasn't just the face of a scam. She was the bait in a con that had pulled in over $5 million. Her hands began to tremble. That's why we need to act now, Valerie said. Freeze all accounts, notify the authorities, and we'll start building a list of victims so restitution can begin. Just then, Marcus's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, frowned, then looked at Brooke. It's from Pinnacle Federal Bank. Your father just attempted to withdraw $200,000 from a joint account tied to one of the fake investment arms. The bank flagged it and froze the funds. Brooke let out a sharp breath. They were panicking, moving fast, and that meant one thing. They knew the walls were closing in. Valerie stood. I need to run a few more traces. I'll be back in an hour. When she left, Marcus turned to Brooke, lowering his voice. You don't have to carry this alone. You know that, right? She nodded, but the nod felt thin, because underneath everything, beneath the legal jargon and digital evidence, was a deeper ache, a question that clawed at her in the quiet. How do you grieve people who are still alive? Brooke stood and walked to the window, watching the city move below, fast, loud, endless. She remembered being 10 years old, watching her dad install a ceiling fan and explaining to her how electricity worked. She remembered her mom's handwriting in her lunch notes, Haley painting her nails with sparkles and laughing when Brooke hated the color. She remembered love, real love. And now she had to prove that love, in its purest form, did not mean silence in the face of injustice. It meant truth, even when it hurt. Marcus's voice broke the silence. There's something else. Brooke turned. I got a message from a woman named Diane Whitmore, retired high school teacher, said she invested her entire retirement into Redwood because she trusted you. She was your mom's friend. Brooke felt as if the floor slipped an inch beneath her. She wants to meet, he added. She doesn't blame you, but she's broken. Brooke closed her eyes. She didn't know what was harder, being betrayed by her family or realizing how many lives they shattered in her name. That night, as she sat in her apartment surrounded by case files and timelines, she wrote a message to Diane. I'd like to meet. I'm so sorry. She stared at the screen before hitting send. Then she whispered to no one. This ends with me. Have you ever had to stand up to someone you love because they crossed a line they couldn't come back from? Because in that moment, Brooke realized this wasn't just about reclaiming her life. It was about stopping the people she once called family before they could destroy anyone else. The courthouse smelled of polished wood and fluorescent anxiety. Brooke Lawson sat in the front row, her shoulders straight, her hands folded in her lap, though her fingers trembled beneath the stillness. The courtroom was packed. Lawyers, reporters, victims, former family friends who once smiled over Thanksgiving dinners, now staring with narrowed eyes or sorrowful regret. Across the aisle sat Robert Lawson, her father, in a faded gray suit that no longer fit. Margaret, her mother, clutched a rosary, though Brooke doubted she remembered the last time she'd believed in anything sacred. And Haley, Haley looked like a ghost, her once vibrant face now hollow, cheeks drawn, lips cracked and silent. The prosecutor stood. His voice was clear, composed, but each word landed like a blade. "What we have before us is not merely a case of financial misconduct," he said. "It is the betrayal of trust at the most intimate level. Family. They didn't just defraud banks or strangers. They used their own daughter's name, her reputation, her identity, as a vehicle for deception." Brooke's heart thudded with each beat of the argument. The evidence was undeniable. Forged emails, IP logs from her parents' home, recordings of meetings between victims and Haley, where Brooke's name was invoked like a golden ticket to safety. And worst of all, the testimonies. Diane Whitmore took the stand first. She clutched a handkerchief as she spoke, her voice steady but fraying at the edges. "I invested my life savings because Margaret told me Brooke was the one running the fund. I was her teacher. I watched her grow up. I trusted them." And just like that, the room changed. The narrative shifted, not from technical details or financial reports, but to a collective ache. The ache of being betrayed by someone you once held in your arms, shared meals with, whispered secrets to. When Brooke was called to the stand, she didn't bring fire or rage. She brought truth, and she told it plainly. "I've spent my life building something I thought made my family proud," she began. "But what I didn't realize is that love, real love, cannot be built on silence. They didn't just steal my identity. They used me to hurt others, people who trusted me. And the only way to repair that is to speak the truth. All of it." She looked at Haley then, not with hatred, but with a sorrow so deep it bordered on pity. And something else. Release. The verdict came swiftly. 18 years in federal prison for Robert Lawson, 15 for Margaret, 12 for Haley, along with a permanent ban from any future financial practice. Haley sobbed when they read the sentence. Margaret looked numb. Robert didn't move at all. Brooke didn't cry. She didn't feel triumphant. She didn't feel vindicated. She felt still, like someone who had finally put down the weight of an entire house built on sand. Weeks passed, then months. Brooke returned to her firm with quiet resilience. Clients came back, her name was cleared, and the victims, one by one, began to receive portions of recovered funds, thanks to Valerie Monroe's relentless tracing. But something inside Brooke had changed forever. She no longer believed that family was unconditional. She no longer assumed love was safety. She believed in truth. And from that, she began to build again. The initiative she launched, Rise and Reclaim, grew faster than anyone expected. Within 6 months, it had helped over 1,000 victims report financial abuse perpetrated by family members. And more than that, it gave them a space to be heard without shame. In one support group, a woman in her 50s named Alina stood up and said, "I thought I was alone. I thought trusting my sister made me foolish, but now I know. It made me human." Brooke smiled at that, because that was the core of it. We trust because we love, and sometimes love betrays us. But healing begins when we stop blaming ourselves for someone else's choice. One gray autumn morning, Brooke returned to her childhood home, now empty, stripped of all furniture, all warmth, all ghosts. She walked through the halls, fingers grazing the walls that once held family portraits and birthday decorations. In the corner of Haley's old room, she found a dusty shoebox. Inside, a bundle of letters addressed to Brooke, never sent, handwritten. "I didn't know it would go this far. I just wanted a way out. I didn't think you'd ever find out." They weren't apologies. They were confessions soaked in cowardice. She closed the box and left it behind. Outside, Marcus was waiting with coffee in one hand and quiet understanding in his eyes. "Ready?" he asked. Brooke nodded. "I'm done looking back." They drove in silence for a while, the kind of silence that only exists between people who've stood on the same battlefield. Later that evening, Brooke stood on the stage at a community hall filled with survivors. The lights were warm, not blinding, the air heavy with the unspoken weight everyone carried. "I used to think I was weak," she began, "because I couldn't forgive, because I walked away from my own family. But now I understand. Walking away wasn't weakness. It was survival." She paused. "And sometimes, survival is the bravest thing you'll ever do." When the event ended, a young man approached her, no older than 20. "My father took out loans in my name," he said. "I didn't think anyone would believe me." Brooke didn't offer platitudes. She simply looked him in the eyes and said, "I believe you, and I promise you're not alone anymore." That night, she walked home under a sky that felt strangely peaceful. She had lost her parents, her sister, her illusions, but she had gained something more precious: herself, and a new kind of family, one forged in truth, resilience, and the belief that even the deepest wounds can become the beginning of something beautiful. What would you have done if you were in Brooke's shoes? If this story moved you, type 100 in the comments to let us know. We'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your country in the comments. And if you know someone who needs to hear this story, please share the video with them. Thank you for watching Life Stories.